Today I'll be covering all the tanks used by the Allied forces during World War II. Steel machines often described as the backbone of modern mechanized warfare. United States M2 light tank was one of the earliest American tanks developed before the war. Although it saw little combat, it played an important role in training and building the U.S. Armored Force. M3 Stuart was the standard American light tank in the early years of the war. Fast, reliable, and easy to maintain, it was used widely from North Africa to the Pacific, especially in reconnaissance roles. M5 Stuart was an improved version of the M3, featuring twin Cadillac engines and a refined hull. It continued to serve effectively until the end of the war. M22 Locust was a light tank designed for airborne operations. Compact and lightweight, it could be carried by glider, although its combat use remained limited. M3 Lee was a temporary solution developed while more advanced American tanks were still in production. With a 75mm gun mounted in the hull and a 37mm gun in the turret, it provided much-needed firepower in North Africa. M3 Grant was the British variant of the M3 Lee, featuring a redesigned turret. It played a key role in helping British forces counter German armor in the desert. M4 Sherman became the iconic American tank of World War II. It was not the most powerful tank on the battlefield, but it was extremely reliable, easy to repair, and produced in massive numbers, forming the backbone of Allied armored forces. M4A1 Sherman featured a cast hull and was widely used during the early campaigns in North Africa and Europe. M4A2 Sherman was powered by a diesel engine and supplied to several Allied nations, including Britain and the Soviet Union, where it proved durable under harsh conditions. M4A3 Sherman was the preferred variant of the U.S. Army, offering improved engine performance and high reliability. M4A4 Sherman featured a lengthened hull to accommodate a multi-bank engine and was used primarily by British forces. M4A3E2 Jumbo was a heavily armored Sherman designed to lead assaults, absorbing enemy fire for the tanks following behind. M24 Chaffee was a next-generation American light tank introduced late in the war, combining a powerful 75mm gun with a modern suspension system. M26 Pershing was the first American heavy tank to see combat, deployed late in the war to counter German Panthers and Tigers. United Kingdom and Commonwealth. Matilda II was a British infantry tank known for its thick armor early in the war. In North Africa, it was nearly impervious to Italian anti-tank weapons. Valentine was one of the most widely produced British tanks. Although slow and cramped, it was extremely reliable and served on multiple fronts. Crusader was the primary British cruiser tank in North Africa. Fast and agile but lightly armored, it proved vulnerable in combat. Covenanter suffered from serious mechanical problems and was used mostly for training within Britain, rather than frontline service. Cromwell was a modern British cruiser tank with high speed and good reliability, widely used in Western Europe after D-Day. Challenger A30 was Britain's attempt to field a tank with a more powerful anti-tank gun, designed for long-range engagements. Comet was one of the best British tanks of the war, combining speed, armor, and firepower in a well-balanced design. Churchill was a heavy infantry tank famous for its ruggedness and ability to cross difficult terrain, making it especially effective in assaults against fortified positions. Tetrarch was a light tank designed for reconnaissance and airborne operations and saw limited use on D-Day. Sentinel was an Australian-built tank developed for homeland defense against a potential invasion. Ram was a Canadian-produced tank based on the Sherman chassis, used primarily for training and support roles. Soviet Union T-26 was the Soviet Union's main light tank before the war and was used extensively during the early stages of the German invasion. BT-5 was a high-speed tank that reflected pre-war Soviet emphasis on mobility. BT-7 was an improved version of the BT series and remained in service until replaced by the T-34. T-34 was one of the most revolutionary tanks in history, featuring sloped armor, strong firepower, and unmatched production efficiency. T-3485, upgraded the original design with an 85 millimeter gun, allowing Soviet forces to better counter German Panthers and Tigers. KV-1 shocked German forces early in the war with its thick armor and battlefield resilience. KV-1S was a lighter and more mobile version of the KV-1. KV-2 was a unique heavy tank armed with a massive 152 millimeter gun designed to destroy fortified positions. IS-1 represented the next generation of Soviet heavy tanks entering service late in the war. IS-2 became the iconic Soviet heavy tank of the final stages of the war, armed with a powerful 122 millimeter gun capable of defeating German heavy armor. Frenson Renault FT was a revolutionary tank from World War I that remained in service during the early stages of World War II. R-35 was a French infantry tank with thick armor but limited speed and weak firepower. H-35 was a cavalry tank with improved mobility and engine performance. H-39 was an upgraded version of the H-35, offering better firepower and reliability. S-35 was one of the most capable French tanks of the war, combining good armor, firepower, and mobility. B-1 Biz was a heavy French tank known for its thick armor and powerful armament, but also for its mechanical complexity. Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Belgium. 7TP was a Polish tank derived from the Vickers design and was considered highly effective for its time. LTVOZ-35 was a modern Czechoslovak tank before the war, used by the country's army prior to German occupation. LTVRs-38 was an improved and highly reliable design that later saw extensive use after being captured by Germany. MC-35 was a tank used by Belgium, featuring a modern design for the early war period, but produced in limited numbers.